Welcome. My name is Rich Fitzgerald, and we're here today on our show In Good Company, which is representative of the Downtown Pittsburgh CDC and all the great work that we have going on here. And two guests who are joining us today are leaders in Harrisburg who have been so instrumental in a lot of the development that's happening here. Number one is the person who represents, we're in his senatorial district, Senator Wayne Fontana, who's with us today, and the leader who leads all of the senators in the Democratic caucus, Senator Jay Costa. Welcome, guys. Good to have you with us.
Thank you, Rich. Happy to be here with you guys.
Thank you, Rich. Great to be here.
So I want to hear from both of you. You know, downtown has seen a tremendous amount of development over the last couple of years. We now have 16,000 residents who live here, an increase of 31% over the last 10 years, and there's 4,000 new units actually in the pipeline. But Pittsburgh also every day grows by about 100,000 workers who come into town. We've seen millions of dollars of investment. And actually, both of you, and I'll go to you first, Wayne, because this is your district, what you guys have been able to do is kind of bring in kind of the seed money to start from the state, and we've seen a tremendous amount of leveraged investment. How do you view, having grown up in Pittsburgh, how do you view the changes that have happened here in downtown Pittsburgh?
Well, back when I was growing up in the late 50s and 60s, it was an industrial town, but it's changed over the years, and it's become a hub for green technology. It's become a hub for startup businesses, and that's all because of the cooperation between the state and the governor's office, our legislators, local government leaders like yourself and Mayor Peduto coming together to promote the area in all different ways. And certainly we want to be business friendly. We do that. We want to create jobs, those kinds of things, and we've done that. And also, I think what's important downtown is the quality of life downtown. We have three rivers and a park right there and trails that run through. So we've supported all those things, and I think that's what's been attractive moving forward.
And the one thing I did mention, we grow by 100,000 residents every day here in downtown Pittsburgh, and we need transit. And one of the things, Senator Costa, your support a number of years ago for the transit funding that really saved the Port Authority and kept the buses running was so instrumental. While you don't represent this area, you view the bigger picture. You know how important downtown and the central business district is to the entire region. Obviously, many of the residents that you represent work here and come in every day. What do you view as some of the things that you'd like to see and you've seen over the last few years in the change? And downtown years ago was more of a retail, where when we came down here as kids, it was a retail place, and now it's an entertainment and office and worker and residential place.
Well, I think one of the things we want to continue to see is the improvement in the quality of life of the downtown residents. You talked about 16,000 folks who live here today, a major increase in what used to be here even like 10 or 12 years ago. I think that's important. That helps sustain and provide stability for the community, and it attracts other things, like you mentioned, a number of restaurants we have here, a number of quality of life things as it relates to our theater district, for example, our cultural trust district. All those type of things I think adds to it. And having access to folks who live outside of downtown Pittsburgh, whether it be through mass transit or being able to utilize other types of travel modes, that's extremely important. So I think that's what we have to continue to do. What I want to see is more investments along those lines, more folks living here, but also recognizing that we have to continue to work to connect our corridors. I think you've been doing great work on the bus rapid transit to be able to enhance downtown Pittsburgh as it relates to the work that needs to be done in connecting Oakland section of Pittsburgh, the second or third largest business area in the Commonwealth. Those are all important things that I think we need to continue to be able to do. And we at the state level have to be able to finance and provide the resources to allow you to do that. But it starts with the appropriate planning to be able to do those things, and that's where we can come in and be able to deliver some of those resources to help you achieve those goals.
Yeah, one of the things I think, you mentioned the restaurants. We now have over 300 restaurants in downtown Pittsburgh. Over 60 of them have outdoor seating cafe with about 1,400 seats that are outdoor. And I know people like to see that, and they like that vibrancy. We see a lot of it along Penn Avenue, where a lot of the theater district is, and the restaurants and the art center. I want to ask Senator Fontana about investment in the arts. And I know you've been very, very proactive in supporting our arts community. And I note that over 3 million visitors a year come to downtown Pittsburgh for arts and cultural events. About 1.5 million come for sporting events. And then we get almost another million that come to convention center. So what are the things that we want to show when people come here to visit, maybe for the first time or maybe once or twice a year, that we want to show off here in our downtown area?
Well, there was no question we have a tourism attraction here in Pittsburgh. People don't realize how much cultural and arts that we actually have. So I think that number that you mentioned, the 3 million visitors, certainly demonstrates that. They come, they can go to the movies, they can go to the shows, they can have a great restaurant experience downtown. And of course, the convention center, as you mentioned, is another tourism. So we have to keep these things vibrant. We have to keep these things going. We work very easily and enthusiastically with the Cultural Trust, with the sports teams, with the convention center team. I'm on the Sports and Exhibition Authority. We need to keep people coming in, and we need to attract things that make people come. But the thing about it is, I always say, I've been to New York a couple times. Pittsburgh's like a mini New York. You know, you come downtown, you can walk around, you feel good about Penn Avenue, you can hit a lot of different places, you can sit outside, you can walk over to Point State Park. There's so many things that you can do. We have an arts festival. We have all kinds of outside activities that happen with the regatta on the 4th of July. These things are all things that bring tourism down to downtown Pittsburgh, and then we top it off with great restaurants and other things to do. So we support that. I've always supported it as the senator represents downtown, and because I know what it does for tourism, and that's an economic impact when that happens.
Yeah, you mentioned the quality of life, and one of the things, Realtor.com just recently rated downtown Pittsburgh as the second safest and most affordable city in the country. So I think when people do come down here, they do feel safe, whether they're residents, whether they're working, whether they're visitors, and what have you. Senator Costa, I wanted to ask you, the downtown business district used to be pretty much defined by the Golden Triangle, the central business district. Now we see it expanding. The Strip District is now kind of included in part of that. The Lower Hill is kind of considered part of that as well. The south side over into Station Square and over into the North Shore. So how do you view that as being able to enhance what we have in the heart of the region?
Well, I think as Senator Fontana says, it goes to the vibrancy and making certain that we maintain the vibrancy of the city of Pittsburgh, and you do that in a variety of ways. You talked about being safe, and I think that's an important, critical element of people perceiving Pittsburgh, whether it's the downtown core or whether it's on North Shore or South Side or wherever it might be, or up in the Lower Hill. People have to feel safe, whether they live here or if they come here. We achieve that, and even though we're expanding the sort of the footprint of the downtown neighborhood community, I think it's imperative that we maintain safe. Cleanliness is a big issue, and folks need to know that they're going to have a quality of life that they're going to enjoy and they look for. It's the restaurants, it's the theater district, it's being able to walk the streets, it's to be able to walk the trails, walk across a bridge, or even utilizing light rail across the river. In my view, one of the best things we ever did, I know folks were criticized for it, was the underground, the trolley over, of course, to the North Shore. Not only do we provide tremendous number of jobs for folks, millions of hours of labor, folks working there, but it opened up the North Shore to further development, to expand the city of Pittsburgh's downtown neighborhoods. And I think that's going to be one of the best things we end up doing in this Commonwealth. We need to do more of that. We need to do light rail to the airport at some point, but at least we would never get to the airport with light rail but for that tunnel. So I think at the end of the day, it's those type of things that I think have made, we allowed us to expand our region, and in terms of our downtown neighborhood and in our community, and I think that's going to continue to grow as we go forward.
Yeah, the other thing that I note is, the folks that are working downtown, the retailers, the restaurants, 2/3 of them are owned locally, which I think is really important, that it's our local business owners who are here, who are invested and want to make sure that quality of life, you mentioned safety, being able to get in and out, obviously the transportation, things like the BRT, and you're right, Senator, that, building that subway over into the North Shore just expanded the central business district and allowed a lot of the growth that continues to happen. We've added hotel rooms since then, more vibrancy, and so many people work in the restaurant, in the hotel and hospitality industry. It's been a big part of it. I guess the question I would ask now, Senator Fontana, is what would you like to see going forward? What would you like to see as we continue this growth and continue the vibrancy of downtown? What do you think are some of the things that we ought to all be focusing on at the state level, county level, city level, and the business community?
Well, I think your point about locally owned is a good one. I'd like to see more of that happening. Small businesses in the downtown area, specialty businesses, which would attract folks from the big malls and the big stores to come downtown because there's a specialty store there. But I think the other point that I think Senator Costa made earlier and you did is about connectivity. You want folks to come from outside of downtown, right? You have folks that are living downtown, but now you're building up all around the region. You're the North Shore and the South Side and the Strip District. These are areas that can expand and then out to Oakland and then all the way out to the airport. You need public transportation that's going to make that happen. Our downtown gets congested, and it's because of maybe the grid. That's an old-time grid there. We need to look at those types of things. Transportation is a big deal, and how people get from one place to another. They don't want to take their cars necessarily anymore. They want to walk to their work. They want to maybe do a bike. Those kind of Uber. They just want to find different ways to get there, but they want to get there, and they want their entertainment, and they want to be where work is, and they want to feel good about all that. So I think, moving forward, we need to make sure we can connect things quickly and efficiently, and I think that's what I'd like to see happen downtown in the near future.
And Senator, one of the things we've seen in downtown, and you guys are great supporters, are green space. We have 47 acres of green space. Obviously, Point State Park is one of the most beautiful parks located, obviously, at the confluence of the rivers, where the Three Rivers Arts Festival is, the regatta, so many events, the 4th of July celebrations that happen. And a lot of that, none of that would happen without the support that our state officials give us for those kind of activities. Senator Fontana mentioned transit. So much of the funding happens in transit because of the money that the state brings in. I think we've been proud of the fact that over the last year we've actually seen an increase in our ridership at the Port Authority, where nationally there's been a trend going the other way. So again, I guess, what do you see yourself going forward in those quality of life investments, whether they be in green space, whether they be in transportation, sustainability? What do you see coming up over the next few years?
I think those type of things are important. I think folks want to have a reasonable balance along those lines. When you talk about having access to, we mentioned earlier, restaurants, certainly the theater community, but also the amenities you talked about, green space, being able to walk to Point State Park and walk around the fountain, do those type of things. Having some walking trails incorporated into the downtown communities, into the streets, whether it be Penn Avenue, some of the things that are being done down around there. I think that's important as well. And as we expand the reach of the footprint of the downtown area, we have to be cognizant of some of the things that we don't want to make happen. We want to make certain we have the appropriate amount of transportation modes available to people. And the transportation, we don't bog ourselves down with too much transportation. So we have to have the right balance along those lines to make sure we do it the right way. As we grow, we got to be cognizant of that. But at the end of the day, it's all these things that make, I think, the downtown community really function really well. Certainly the work and opportunities that are there, the people who live and work here, certainly leading that effort. But when you stop and think about it, the amenities that we have, the quality of life, the transportation mode, the work with respect to green space, all those type of things really blend well together to make Pittsburgh what it is. We just have to make sure we monitor closely and make right decisions about where these investments need to be and how we move people in and out of these communities.
No, I think you're right. And I think, Senator Fontana, you brought up a great point earlier. Pittsburgh in some ways is a mini New York. Like, it has that cultural feel. It wasn't that many years ago that at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, downtown would die. It would empty out. There was nobody here. Now you see along, again, the cultural district down in Market Square, every night is packed with, the restaurants are full, the theater district is full, the art galleries. There's just so much going on. And you think about places like the Warhol Museum, right across in the North Shore, that are such destinations for the nation to come to. It's just, we need to keep that momentum going. And I think that's the challenge of all of us. We've seen that transformation in a positive way. How do we keep that momentum going? How do we not choke off with congestion and gridlock, and lose some of that quality of life that's made it so special?
Well, I think that's us working together to make sure that doesn't happen. I think what you have is you have local officials, you have community groups, everyone's looking to make sure that doesn't happen and it keeps growing. We have so much, Pittsburgh was one of the most livable cities. And it's because of the tech, how we reinvented ourselves in technology, healthcare, biosciences. And I think, our big secret might be, I don't know if it's so much a secret, but our education, our world-class education system. We have world-class hospitals These folks all care about Pittsburgh, and working all together with all the big companies that have come. We have at least 5 corporate headquarters here. Now we have Facebook, we have Google, we have Uber, we have a lot of things going, and we're going to be at the forefront in driverless cars. All that sort of technology is happening here in Pittsburgh. And if you're here and you want to bring companies like that, just like we had a chance with Amazon, that's because there's something good happening, and they realize that, and we all as elected officials realize that, and we want to make sure it keeps happening.
Yeah, and as I wrap up, there's a couple. I love the statistics that we get national and international acclaim. We're just recently given by National Geographic as the number 3 coolest city in the world is Pittsburgh. And then also that we were the number 1 minority entrepreneurs by LendingTree. So we're trying to obviously make sure that this is an inclusive city for everybody, for local businesses, for minorities, for people starting up, the tech community, as you mentioned. I can't thank these 2 gentlemen enough because they have really been great partners in being able to spur the $300 million of investment we've had in the last couple of years from the private sector because of the assets and the leverage they've brought from the state. So Senator Fontana, I'll let Senator Fontana and then Senator Costa just wrap up and say one final word before we sign off.
Well, I think it's all about, as I mentioned, all of us working together to move Pittsburgh forward. We have a lot of good things happening. And the other thing I want to mention is Pittsburgh's affordable. One of the reasons we're the most livable city is because we're affordable. And I think that's a big point too, whether it's housing or just the cost of that entertainment and that quality of life, housing, those types of things. I think it's a big deal. So we're on the right track, and I think we just need to work together to keep moving forward.
And Senator Costa is the leader who's done a lot of this over the last couple of years and a number of terms in the Senate, but you've always been putting the city and putting the region at the foremost and fighting for us in Harrisburg. Congratulations on all your success. And how do you view the last kind of summing up what we've been talking about?
Well, I think we've been blessed in Pittsburgh, and I think it's important to recognize as Pittsburgh goes, particularly downtown Pittsburgh, and even to a lesser extent Oakland and some of the other areas, so goes our region. And I think that's why we've enjoyed great success in our region. Wayne talked about working together, and it also starts with leadership. Yourself and Mayor Peduto being great team leaders and working with folks at the state, federal, and local level to be able to prioritize the things that are important to our cities and our region. That makes it a lot easier for us, and being able to set the table for us to make the arguments in the case as to why we need resources here in Pittsburgh. And the value that they bring is really important along those lines. One of the things that Senator Fontana talked about, which I think we need to continue to look at and focus on, relates to the educational institutions here we have in our region. When you think about almost 45% of the stuff, the work that's being done here is between finance, insurance, and professional services. Those are important aspects, and that's what drives the economy and the work economy down here in Pittsburgh. So our universities play a major role in that. So as we continue to provide opportunities for the folks who are leaving those universities, coming here for school or living here and coming to school and staying here and investing in downtown Pittsburgh and our communities is really a positive thing for us to be able to do, and we have to monitor that going forward.
I don't think there's any question connecting those students from Chatham and CMU and Pitt and Carlow and Duquesne and our friends here in the business district with Point Park is a big part of what we're doing. So I want to thank both of our senators for being with us today. We'll be back again next month with a couple more guests who are very impactful for what's happening in the downtown business district. I want to thank John Valentine and the CDC for the continued work they do, and let's keep working together. Thank you.